Today we're gonna see the practicality of a 60-year-old rear-wheel drive JDM car with a welded rear diff as a daily driver. Is it gonna be worth it? Did I ruin the drivability by welding the rear diff? Is it just hard to drive because it's 60 years old? Let's find out. This thing's been sitting for a couple weeks now. I just got back from 2 weeks in Florida, so let's see if it starts. Oh my. This thing continues to amaze me. It definitely has got a couple issues. It's been cutting in and out and it's not running right, but it starts right on up, even cold. So we're gonna go ahead and pull it around to the garage and get tearing into this carburetor to see if we can figure out why it won't stay running right. We got her in the shop. She's definitely not looking the best. She's got some flat tires. She's making some rattles under the hood. We're gonna get digging into it and see what needs done to get this thing back on the road again. Some air in the tires. She's looking a little bit better. Now we're gonna go ahead and assess. I heard a pretty bad knocking when I pulled this thing in, even sitting there at an idle. So let's see what it sounds like. Oh. Well, it's probably not good to have the air cleaner falling off. So I guess first thing first, I'll pull this apart. I wanted to get into the carburetor anyway. I think it's a little bit gummed up because when it's wide open throttle, it won't run right. Hopefully it's just a little bit of a dirty carburetor and we can get this thing back on the road without any issues. Well, that wasn't ideal. But there's the carburetor. Being built way back in the day, this carburetor is really simple. Couple vacuum lines, they're all hard lines. And I'm gonna go ahead and pull all these off. Then I can pull the top half of this carburetor apart. And we should be able to see the jets and everything that I'd need to clean. All right, now that I got the fuel lines off, I'm gonna go ahead and we're just gonna break free all of these flathead screws all the way across the top. There's quite a few of them. Then I should be able to pop the whole top of this carburetor off without even pulling it off of the intake manifold. All right, and with that, got the top half of this carburetor apart. We're gonna start by pulling all these jets out. I've got all 3 jets removed right here, and I've got the carburetor pulled apart right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna make sure first that with some brake clean that I can get the feed to these jets cleaned. Make sure I can clean everything out of there, and I'm gonna do that to both main jets as well as the little idle jet. Now that I'm pretty confident on that, I can move over and start looking at these jets. All right, I've got all of these jets cleaned up. All of these main banjo bolts are looking really good. The secondary jets are all able to be seen through, which means they're cleaned out and looking good. So I'm gonna go ahead and put all of these jets back in here. Since I've got all of that back together, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna drop this right onto. We've got the carburetor put back together. We've got everything ready to go. It's tightened down. We've got the linkages on. Last thing we need to do is hook up these 2 hard lines here and here. And then we should be able to crank her over and see if she starts. All right, and it seems to be running pretty good. Cool. Returns to idle. Idle's pretty good. We've got her completely back together. She sounds like she's idling real nice. Seems like she's running a lot better. So we're gonna go ahead and take this bad boy for a cruise. First things first. Will it do burn out? Well, she's already run a little bit better. I'd say she's running a little bit better. Let's see. Oh, I say we got her a bit warm. Getting that extra traction additive on there. She's still spinning both. So the axle and differential that many people told me were just gonna grenade themselves if I welded are doing great, because you have a 4-inch wide patch of rubber. There's not a whole lot there to break stuff. Well, after our little burnout there, found this chunk of rubber on the ground under the car where the rubber streaks were. So I guess I'm gonna go investigate and see where this came from. Possibly a motor mount, it looks like, which wouldn't be great. I looked around the car really well and I didn't see a spot where this rubber came from. So I'm just gonna take it for a drive and see if there's any weird clunks or bangs. So the first major issue with this thing is every time I drive it, this headliner has fallen down. And so from the driver's seat, that's about what you get to see. Not much. So I actually have a can of 3M adhesive that lives in the back seat, so that every time I drive it, I can re-glue the headliner up. All right, next, we better check our fuel gauge. Since we don't have a fuel gauge in the car, got to come back here, pop the trunk. There is a gauge on here, as you can see, but it's not super accurate, so I like to just pull the cap off, take a look in there. There we go. Well, we're done with stop one. We just came to Walmart, got a load of stuff, and one of the first issues you see with this thing is, well, this door doesn't open, and if you've looked into our trunk space, as well as that door not opening, our trunk is not very useful with these holes everywhere. So we're gonna go ahead and stuff all these groceries in the back seat and see how well it does. Luckily this door opens, so we can still stack stuff in here, but there's not much room in this thing, so it's gonna be tight. As you can see, it's pretty darn full in here. There is not much room left over, but we got her to fit, so it's a good grocery hauler. That's step one. We got a couple more stops to make though. Thing's kind of running like garbage, and not sure if you can tell here, but there's definitely no air conditioning, and it's hot here in Albuquerque. So 0.1 for daily driver, 0.1 for useless car that I shouldn't be driving every day. Next, we're gonna take this thing to Sonic. Like I said, it's really hot out, so we're gonna get some nice cold drinks. All right, we got our drinks, and one of the biggest flaws of driving a car that's 60 years old is there are no cup holders, and it's a manual transmission. So right now I'm wielding my camera, my drink, and shifting. So, you know, not ideal. Well, we saw a sign for a yard sale, so we took a random turn. That's part of daily driving. I was wrong. There are cup holders. They're built into the glove compartment lid, so that's pretty cool. Was not much there, but we found these super dope hubcaps. Now, you know, the ultimate test for a daily driver is got to be able to do dope burnouts. It's got to be able to do some nasty burnouts, create a lot of smoke. So we're gonna go ahead and see if we can do that. It doesn't like burnouts. Let me try again. We're gonna see if maybe this thing will whip a couple donuts. Man, this thing is so much fun. Okay, it might not be running great, but it's definitely running well enough to spin some circles. Oh man, This thing is such a hoot to drive. You wouldn't expect something like this to just be able to whip it around like that. And I know it wouldn't without the welded differential, but man, this thing is a fun car to drive.